How are y'all doing this morning? I need a little bit more noise than that. How are y'all doing this morning? There we go. So normally, when I come to C3, I have all of these stories prepared. I love telling stories. So I normally jam-pack every minute of my time up here with life lessons and things that I feel like I've gained. Ooh, now that's a little high. But today I'm doing things a little bit different. As you all know, I'm a poet. So I really want to cram a lot of my time here instead of stories with poems that hopefully weave everything together. In the beginning of today, in our little session that we had, a group of people joined us, and we kind of broke down the importance and why we find value, how we measure the value of a tree. And we zoomed out, and we started dialoguing and breaking down how we find value in people, especially people with different views or lifestyles or opinions than a lot of us had. And I was really, really excited by that conversation. Originally, I wanted to come and I wanted to share a story about a Stretch Armstrong doll I had. I know that kind of dates myself, but most of y'all in here know what Stretch Armstrong dolls were. I used to love my Stretch Armstrong doll, and my mom, we grew up super poor. So for fun, we'd always go to the dollar store and get random items, and then we'd get in her 1988 Geo Metro, and we would just drive until like the tank went empty on the car, and she would take pictures, and she would tell me stories, and she would fill my head with all these things. And I was going to talk about how this last year I felt like this Stretch Armstrong doll. This thing that you pull as far as you can apart and you watch stretch. But unfortunately, the Stretch Armstrong doll's demise came early when I left it on the console of this Geo Metro, and the sun melted it, and it like melted all over the dashboard. And then I started thinking about that, and I was like, man, I don't really want that story to end here today. So instead, I'm going to read poems that hopefully kind of tell that same story, but pull it all in a different direction. A lot of you all know about my past, a lot about my history. For those that are unaware, a quick synopsis, my early life was rather tough. I grew up with a stepfather who liked to drink in excess. We grew up really low income. And for a majority of my life, my stepfather loved to put his hands on me. I was molested for many years. And for a long time, I became very much a product of my environment. I was somebody that had very different views than a lot of people around me. I loved to fight everything and everyone, every opportunity that I had. I was that kid that got suspended from school for fighting more times than I can count on my hand. I was that kid that got in a fight at basketball courts and movie theaters. Any opportunity that I had to take up space and feel like I could defend myself for once, or that I could be powerful, I lived and I loved those moments. And in our class, in our sessions earlier, we talked about kind of where things grow and what they look like when they're growing. And I was a lot uglier in image than a tree. I was somebody who caused a significant amount of destruction to family members, to people I loved. I ended up for many years coping with the things that I was going through with alcohol. Anytime that I could find a reason to drink, anytime life got hard, I would climb in the bottle the same way that my grandfather did and that my abuser, my stepfather, did. And for a long time, that made me even more rough of a human being. But about 4 years ago, I found the sandpaper to my roughness. I found this incredible human being named Nika, and she changed my life. She is somebody who does not take any mess. I want to use different words, but I won't use them since we're here. But she's very good at setting boundaries. She's very good at being intentional, and she's very good at checking me and doing it in a way of where I can learn and I can grow. And the unique thing about my significant other, which is also a unique thing about a lot of people in general, is that she's somebody who had very different views and a very different outlook on the world than I did. And she constantly challenged my opinions. She constantly challenged my views and kind of just made me look at the world different. And although we both shared the passion for making the world a better place, we had very different ideas on what that looks like. But the thing that we had in common is we're both people who came from destruction. And I don't know how many of you came from complicated pasts, but when you meet somebody who also comes from the chaos, from the hurricanes, it makes you realize that what you knew about love or intimacy or a healthy relationship is often skewed. But the thing that was so beautiful about our relationship is we kind of taught each other how to love. We redefined what love was for us and created it in a way of where it was healthy for both of us, and it continued to get us excited, and we were continually able to teach each other and share these lessons. And normally I dive way into the feels and people are crying and there's tissues, and I'm not going to do that today. But hopefully these will kind of give you something to walk away with that you feel is valuable. I wrote this poem for her about 3 years ago, and it's called Love Is. Her backhanded statements used to land on my chin with the grace of a robin on a street sign. But the intersection between being off balance and love is where God lives. I've never been the religious type, but I swear to God she could be one, so I pray to her. I swear every time she says, you've written poems about every one of your temporary exes, but I don't hear a poem about the woman you say you want to marry, dang it. She was right. I want to marry her. For longer than I can remember, I played house in women's imaginations. Every relationship, a truth or dare me to leave, his honesty would never reside beneath the floorboards. Our foundations, never more than hot air. My lovers, always baskets holding my open pieces. Our heads balloon, blooming to my words, fueling us to stay together. But she is wrong about one thing. I did not write poems about every one of my exes, though because of her, I wish I did. They say bad relationships make great poetry, but I have to disagree because I've heard some really awful love poems. Hell, I've written them, even memorized them. They give my lemon of an engine just about as much comfort as the PTSD, but our hearts were never made to work correctly, were they? We are both machines built by workers that never learned how to construct them right the first time. We are reminded of this every time we hit a pothole. Our pistons lock, our engines seize, and we look around for a healthy example of how our engineers overcame these same obstacles. But we have no healthy relationships to compare ours to. Every time someone makes a request for one of their poems, I see it on page in my book, or God forbid my agent thinks it would play well in a college market, I'm reminded there's no market for words about you. There's only one for the dysfunctional stuff. No one wants to hear about the nights where your heartbeat is the lullaby playing metronome to my grandmother's voice. The voice I remember from my childhood with only "You Are My Sunshine" is a selection on the jukebox, but you give it that funky rhythm though. The drum kick, the boom, boom, that deep pound op knock that stops the PTSD from crawling into nightmares. But we're not going to go there because I don't want this to become just another poem about my past when I am now focusing on the future, head in the clouds, but no longer being fueled by hot air. I once heard someone say that man was created in the image of God, but that had to be a lie. How else could I get so high while just experiencing you? I did not write poems about every one of my exes, though at times I wish I did. That way I could say something cheesy like, "Oh baby, that's because I always write about my past. But it's now safe to say that I know my future." But we never really know what our future looks like. And that's one thing that I really wanted to talk about when I was talking about this Stretch Armstrong doll, is because we really never know where things are going to go or what the road is going to look like. In April, my life kind of got switched and turned upside down on its head. Last time I was here, I talked about an incredible tour trip to Texas. And when I got here, somebody was like, man, there's some words that you said to me, and it was crazy because you were like, man, is this real life? And honestly, I feel like my life is like kind of like just a big movie, because sometimes I think that I know what the ending is going to be, and I try to create what I want my ending to be, but it never really is. I digress, but in April, my dynamic, incredible partner, who is now my fiance, thank you, was diagnosed with stage 3B breast cancer. By raise of hands, how many people have had a loved one that has been diagnosed with some form of cancer? Almost everybody in this room. I wish I had the words to describe what it feels like when your loved one is diagnosed. I want to say it's fear, but I don't necessarily think that it's fear. I want to say it feels like a wanting to solve an issue, but it's not rooted in finding solutions. But as of 2 weeks ago, she finished her final round of chemotherapy. And after she did this and rung this bell, and the thought of her ringing this bell makes my eyes water, I was like, what does it feel like? And the words that she shared with me were, it's a really remarkable feeling because it feels like joy. But when you think about it, a majority of the people in the world will never ring this bell. And there's so many people who go through cancer that never get to the point of ringing the bell. And that rattled my mind because it made me think of when we start talking about our own demons, when we start trying to solve issues that we see in the world. There's so many experiences that a majority of us have never had. There are so many experiences that people have had and they'll go through and that they'll never make it out at the end of the tunnel. But one thing that I started to think about is that not a lot of people talk about what partners go through, loved ones go through, or how people really feel when their significant others are dealing with this battle. So I wrote a poem for everybody that has their hands up, or that had their hands up, who's a loved one of someone who is starting this battle. And this poem is for you. No one writes poems for the partners or loved ones or the soon-to-be survivors. So I etched this one in my ribs for the ones with smiles like theater masks. The ones with hair-triggered laughs and tempers like dry fields that haven't felt the warmth of French kissing lightning yet. The ones with shoulders made of stone that feel they can't afford to crumble. The non-denominational dream catchers of prayers, well wishes, hope, whatever good juju people can conjure up that day and serve up hot. This one is for the tin folk, scarecrows, and lions. For the people that never felt love until they realized it could leave without them even pushing their loved ones away. For the people who have ixnayed on running because they are too scared to even move now, much less look for the fire exit when it feels like your world is aflame and your feet are rooted in the here and now. Don't worry. I wrote this for the stable and the quick to validate too. The ones that been good and healthy before good and healthy was a reaction fueled by fight or wanting to fly yourself away. This for those stuck in fight or flight. This for those that just want to fight because it feels so much safer than feeling. Or the ones that can't find their wings in their overcrowded closets, junk drawers, or backpacks stuffed to the linings with coffins and bones. I wrote it for those with tongues or records skipping on I love you, love. I love you. Love, I. This is for those that can't help but selfishly be focused on the I, because every time they think of the latter, they tear themselves into pieces. Somehow Elmer's gluing themselves together for their you. I wrote you a poem. I wrote me a poem. It reads, No one writes a poem for the partners of the soon-to-be survivors or the partners of the lost. So many are focused on your loved one that maybe not even you can focus on yourself. If the person you love asks you to be strong, and you, like me, ain't never been best at doing the best for you, here's a secret. Self-care ain't even for self now. Everything is selfless. Tell your reflection that you are being the best you that you can be for them and believe it. Move the needle forward. Let the record play past love. Sit there for a while until it ends and listen for the thunder, whether it comes or not. Past love. Sit there for a while until it ends and listen for the thunder, whether it comes or not. So I have one more piece that I'm going to read, and then I will get out of here. As you all know, I'm somebody who is I have a huge passion for talking about mental health issues. I have a huge passion for talking about issues regarding like toxic masculinity. And part of the reason that I'm so passionate about that is because I have a foundation that's like fertilized with a history of toxic masculinity. And part of the reason that I'm so passionate about mental health issues is because at age 14, I was diagnosed with anxiety, bipolar, and depression. And I know that my history and my upbringing is a major component in that. But there's an individual in your community, Barbara from the Momentum Center, and we are collaborating on August 26th to do a huge youth summit. So if any of you know any young people or you guys want to come to this event, reach out to the Momentum Center, reach out to Barbara. We're going to be doing this at Spring Lake, so it's right around the corner from you all. But if you guys want more information, you can come out there and chat with me about it. The final poem I have to read has that little Louis Armstrong excerpt in it that you all heard in the beginning. We do a lot of work with young people all around Kent County through our nonprofit, The Diatribe. In the beginning of this is going to take some singing, and I'm not a singer, so bear with me. It might make you chuckle and laugh, and that's okay. You can laugh at me in the beginning of this. But it's kind of part of the issue that I see with young men and young boys. It's called What a Wonderful World.
I hear babies crying. I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
As the warm rays of the morning sun greet us through the withered ivory-framed eyes of a Montessori classroom, the teacher plays gardener to a jazz band of vivacious adolescent seedlings in her middle school AP English class. As they tune their daily discretion, she plants them in a circle, interrupting teen gossip and statements of how terrible their lunch was with patience met with abidance. Once all of them are calm, ears ready and voices prepared to chime over our sighs of relief that they are actually calmed down, we start off with an icebreaker. I want everyone in here to compliment the person on their left. Let's start with Sarah. The fuse was lit. Its wick burns through the first three young girls that sit beside each other each week with ease, a dynamic explosion of feminine energy that bounces off white square cork ceiling tiles, rattles window panes, and shakes the DIY mason jar candles and paper lanterns that make this room feel safer than everyone's childhood dream home. You can hear the roar of smiles and see the sparks of authenticity cut through the shackles of competition that society forces on the ankles of these young women. These brilliant, vibrant, sharp humans destroying change with molten statements of, I love your energy. Another to Bree on her left. I love that you aren't scared to be you. Another to Shantae. You're the bravest person I know. And positivity flows through the classroom like the first rain in spring, falling upon parched ears. We watch confidence bloom. Each smile, a new petal allowed to blossom, not plucked and discarded with an I love me not. Until the third girl gets to a boy and says, Victor, I love your smile. And you always have the flyest shoes. His face blossoming, a grand finale of reds and whites, teeth cheesing, cheeks a stoplight, praying she runs it. He says, stop, but his smile says proceed. But that boy turns to his left, and lo behold sees another boy. His grin fades. Voice crackling in an off-key horn solo, he trumpets, I'm not complimenting another guy, that's fists clenched so hard that his fingertips debated whether or not to breach through his palms. I don't like guys, I'm not. He pauses, looks around, lets out a reluctant, well, I've just never done it before. That time after time, week after week, when we would meet during those workshops, I'd feed them compliments until they were full and then feed them some more. Soul food every Thursday for lunch. Xavier, see, you got a smile that will make a puppy blush. Ryan, you're so passionate, you make music listen to the sound of your voice. And Victor, thank you for always teaching me more than you'll ever know, so that this cycle, at least in this class, would never again break because of a boy eager and willing to grow, who was just never taught that he could be kind, one lesson at a time. And I hope they think to themselves, what a wonderful world. Thank you all so much. My name is Fable. If you all would like to come, give me hugs. I love hugs. I have CDs out there. I have stickers. I have reminders for this huge event we do called the Grand Showcase. We're trying to get a theater space in Grand Rapids where we can have a youth after school space. And to raise money for that, we're doing the largest poetry event anybody's ever seen in West Michigan. Please take one of those flyers off that table, take a brochure, take stickers. And thank you all very, very much for listening to me again. I adore you all. Have a fantastic day.